Hey Truth Seekers, it's Carolyn here, and I'm going to be doing my deck review for my Ezra Hope and Faith deck. So as we have been doing recently, we are going through the new Fearless expansion, and we are strictly holding ourselves to the rule that all of our decks at the moment have to have Fearless cards only. The only exception to this rule is our Truth Seeker, as Fearless did not have any new Truth Seekers. So I'm using my Truth Seeker from Red Letter Day. This is Ezra. He is pretty awesome. Really enjoying him. He says that during your scoring phase, you may convert any discard costs, which are faith discard costs, on a single Animo to a regular power cost. So that is that guy. And like I said, this is going to be a Hope and Faith deck here. So I run 3 of my Hope. I run multiple Faith. I run 6 Faith altogether. And I have 3 Prayer. So originally I had less Faith, but I was running into the fact that I wasn't seeing them when I needed to, so I went ahead and bumped that up just a little bit. So I have 3 Prayer to help me when I need some little bit of back and forth there, but that's what I'm running for the most part with my power cards here. So I run a single Hightail, starting us off with our Hope. I'm probably going to up him a little bit, but for the moment, I just have the one. And he has a unique retreat ability that says if this card is in your hand, you may choose to reveal it to your opponent and shuffle it back into your deck. If you do, you get to draw 3 cards. So awesome on that draw power there. Moving on, I have a single Tortosaur. He has an action that says you may search your deck for any level 1 Animo and place it directly into your small group. He is also able to search for Ultras. I run a single level 1 and level 2 Percy. I'm actually thinking about dropping him out of this deck and running something else, but for the moment he is still here. He is a 2 for 6 or a 2 for 11, which is awesome. Moving on to my flagship boy for my Hope here, I have Conqueror. I have these special sleeved, well, the wrong sleeves, but this guy came with these sleeves and the box for the Hope. And this guy is the regular artwork for him. So I run 1 of each of those. And because of that, I run 2 of my level 2s. And he is a 2 for 12, and he says, search your deck for any 4 cards and place them on top of your deck in any order. So he is just awesome. Moving on to my Faith cards, I have Hoof It. I have a single one of these. His ability says, if this card is in your hand, you may choose to discard it. If you do, you may shuffle any 3 cards from your discard pile back into your deck. So he would be really cool before you do your Hightail. So in the very OG set of Animo, Hightail and Hoof It looked very similar. They have vastly different artwork now, and I'm loving it. So these work really well together as well. Next, I have 2 Mayseal for their fellowship bonus here. They're a 2 for 7, and they are one of the few Faith cards that have a fellowship bonus with Hope. I run a single level 1 and level 2 Trusty. Level 1 Trusty is 2 for 6. Level 2 is a 2, discard 1 for 8. And this one says you may choose to discard this card from your small group, including its previous growth stage and any attached cards. And if you do, you get to draw 4 cards. That's mostly why I have him in here. His fellowship bonus is with Holy Spirit, not Hope. And 2 for 8 isn't bad, but I like him for that ability as well. And then moving on to my boy here, I have Armorino. I have 3 of each of these levels. Level 1 says when this card is played from your hand into your small group, you may search your deck for 1 Faith power and you get to shuffle it afterwards. So like I said, I have 3 level 1 and 3 level 2s. Level 2 is a 2 for 7, says when this card is played to grow Armorino level 1, you may search your discard pile for 1 card and place it into your hand. And then finally, I have 3 level 3s here. He has a unique ability that says Preserve Faith. Instantly earn 2 virtue points for every Faith power in your discard pile. No more than 10 virtue points may be earned in this manner. So he is really awesome. And then moving on to my Stagnetic, I have 2 of the 2 for 8 Stagnetic here. He has a action that is called Endurance, and it says instantly earn 5 virtue points if you have 20 or fewer cards in your deck, and an additional 5 virtue points if you have 10 or fewer cards in your deck. He also has a really short verse, which really saved my bacon in the game that we played because I used him to defeat a Cine, so that was really cool.
You used him to defeat 2 Cines because you had the second Stagnetic 2.
True, because I used this other one that I'm about to talk about now. So, because Stagnetic is a weakness, I was able to use both of these, which is awesome. This verse was harder to learn, though. So, this verse is bigger, a lot longer, but I love the artwork differences on these guys, too. Just so cool. So, this Stagnetic says once per turn, as long as this card is in your small group, you may choose to discard up to 3 cards from your hand. If you do, draw 1 card for each card that you discard in this manner. So Stagnetic is really cool to help clear out your hand, to help get you some more points. I really like this setup here. And then moving on, we have our story cards. I have a single paused Moz. Place this card in your active Cine spot or next to it if it's currently occupied by another card. And no opponent may reveal a Cine to you on their next turn. At the beginning of your next turn, remove this card, as well as any other copies of paused Moz in your hand, deck, or discard pile from the game. I have Into the Fire. You may swap up to 3 power cards from your power pool with standard power cards of the same number that you find in your deck. Giant Killer. You get to choose one of the following. Search your deck for a Mega Cine and reveal it to an opponent. This can only be done if the opponent is not already facing a Cine. Or, if you're facing a Mega Cine, return it to its owner and have them shuffle it back into their deck. We have For Such a Time as This, that says, reveal any number of Cines from your hand to your opponent and shuffle them back into your deck. You may then draw 2 cards for each Cine shuffled back into your deck in this manner, which is really awesome, very useful if you're drawing lots of Cines at one time. Next, we have our equipment cards. I have a Scarlet Cord, which says, the Animo to whom this card is attached may either be returned to your hand or discarded from your small group at any time during your setup phase. If you choose to discard it, you may search your deck for any Animo with equal or lesser virtue point and place it in your hand. This card must be discarded once the action is used. I have a David's Sling in this deck. When it's attached to a Hope, Love, or Holy Spirit Animo, this card turns any fellowship bonus into a Faith Fellowship bonus. This card has no effect on an Animo that does not already have a fellowship bonus. And then finally we have a hindrance card here. This is Goliath's Sword. As long as this card is attached to your opponent's Mega Cine, they must discard the top 2 cards of their deck every time they play an Animo from their hand into their small group, and before applying abilities of those Animo. When the Cine to whom this card is attached is defeated, your opponent may shuffle any 1 card from their discard pile back into their deck. And moving on to our Cines here. Starting off with the smallest, we have Selfish. His ability says as long as the Cine is active, the fellowship bonuses of your opponent's Animo may not be enabled. We have Lurikai here. During your setup phase, this Cine may be played, revealed to an opponent directly from your discard pile as if it was in your hand. He is awesome. Venomouth here. As long as this card is active, your opponent's Animo may not be activated in the same turn that they're added to or grown in their small group. Dismay Fly. As long as a Cine remains active, your opponent may not discard any cards from their hands. Batapole says, as long as a Cine is active, your opponent must discard the top 2 cards of their deck in order to use their Truth Seeker's ability. Brandish. As long as this card is active, each time your opponent adds a power card from their hand into their power pool, they must discard the top card of their deck, and his weakness is Stagnetic. We have Toll Crow here. As long as this card is active, your opponent may not use any special power cards from their power pool to activate Animo. And finally, we have Fearcrow Mega Plus. He says your opponent may not play any cards from their hand on their next turn, and he is fantastic. And along with our Megas here, I have 2 Ultras finally. We have Stagnetic Ultra and Hoofit Ultra. We have a 2 for 10 or a 2 for 13. And this one says, if this card is in your hand, you may choose to discard it. If you do, search your deck for 2 faith powers and add them to your power pool. So he is awesome. So that is the Faith and Hope deck review with Ezra for Fearless. In the meantime, Truth Seekers, keep learning virtues and defeating Sinnies.